The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Of stuff to go through for the great Sift, but it's all going to go into the gray bins that are on the floor. The good stuff that just needs a new home goes into the small one, and the stuff that's going away goes into the big one. I'm basically rolling the dice that I will have more stuff to get rid of than stuff to keep. That's the point of all of this. Some of this work in progress can also not proceed until I clean up some of this clutter. Like for example, it'd be nice to know where my soldering iron went. I have seen it around here, I'm just curious where it got tangled up. Probably I'll unearth it in the midst of all of this. However, the stuff I need to resolder those speakers cannot hold up the rest of this decluttering type thing. Again, we've got a pretty ratty neighborhood around here. If I can stick out for good reasons, that'd be a good thing. One thing, I should probably get rid of that yellowed power strip, even though it has a longer cord than most. I'm sure there are better looking replacements for it. Plus, Radio Shack. But it still works. That's the ironic part about all of it. Right, let's get to sifting. Our first reject is this Philips amplified antenna. This is the one that made it to the new place. Can you guess why? Yeah. It's also analog, predates the digital switchover, and traditionally over-the-air TV doesn't work very well out here in the woods. It's a miracle that stores even sell these things to begin with. This one's a no-brainer. I don't know if I have to be particularly careful with stuff that's getting thrown out. My first ever scanner, the Canon CanoScan Lide 50 flatbed scanner, still in perfect working order. No scratches on the glass or anything. And it was even built better than today's scanners because the USB for it has that D connector instead of MicroUSB or mini USB. Artificially made obsolete by Canon deciding not to make drivers past Windows XP. Some people hack jobbed some drivers for Windows 7, but it didn't continue working past Windows 7. 8 and 10, no dice. Perfectly working scanner. Still works just as good today as it did over 10 years ago. Made into e-waste by artificial obsolescence. Thanks, Canon. Another no-brainer is any speaker wire that's less than 16 gauge. I don't know. I can't possibly imagine why I would want to get rid of old speaker wire like this. Yeah. It's slipping my mind here. Well, no. It's more worth it to buy speaker wire by the spool and just snip off what you need later, instead of trying to have some hack job collection of used cables and stuff like that. So yeah, 16 gauge. This is actually the same gauge as the Monster kit that I blew that money on in college. Still, the Monster cable still works, but I'm just snipping it up into patch cords at this point, because any new speaker wiring that I need can come right off of this spool. Why 16 gauge instead of 12 gauge? Because the piece of junk spring clips in the clip sats won't take higher than 14. So I said, you know what, let's stick with what we already know works. Same gauge as the Monster kit that I got for it. This old Logitech MX series mouse, or gaming mouse I should say, is a great reason why I am wary of Logitech devices versus other brands. So, when my IntelliMouse Explorer 3 started getting some wear and tear, I went through 3 of these in the course of like 2 years, because of stupid stuff like this. Yeah, worn off grommets, and then the glue from the grommets got all over the bottom of the mouse. Then to clean off the glue, it took off the markings and what have you. Yeah, it's just... Anyways, the last one of these I have, the wire went intermittent, but this one, for some strange reason, still works. So that one's a keeper. Until it breaks, of course. Then we'll ditch it. 2 Fractal Venturis. Fractal fans will be an automatic pass. These are actually going to be the fans in monolith. 2 of them anyways. Wow, this keyboard really looks like crap. This is the Microsoft Digital Media Pro 2-tone keyboard from the Silver Bullet era, back when 2-tone keyboards actually didn't look stupid. Nowadays everything's black, 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 and more black for the most part, which is better because you don't have paint wearing off if it's all black plastic, and you don't have discoloration that's as noticeable for darker plastics. It does discolor, but it's harder to see versus like something that's beige turning yellow on you. I know a few things about that with that piece of crap over there. Anywho, yeah, this keyboard's in perfect working order. It just looks terrible. It'd be a nice mod project, put a paint job on it and whatnot. It's even got this, and it's got, I remember in the Windows XP days, you could push your sleep button to pop open the shutdown menu and then hit U to shut down or R to restart. It's really too bad Windows 7 got rid of that functionality. Zoom slider, volume knobs, and a mute right there. This was an incredible keyboard, but obviously it hasn't aged well. There's enough cheap keyboards out there that I am starving this channel for videos by not making videos about them. So, this one's a no-brainer. Junk it. The one remaining piece of the terrible Cyber Acoustics Kmart Special $30 2.1 speaker setup that I bought when I was a freshman in college, which had the infamous 4-inch subwoofer that I got decent bass out of by throwing in my desk drawer in the dorms. This is all that's left of it, the AC adapter. It does 12 volts, 1 amp, negative tip. I still think there might be some use for this somewhere. 12 volt, 1 amp, just gotta watch the tip voltage. I got a feeling I could use this somewhere until it cooks, even though it does look a little ratty in its old age. Oh look, a mini to mini. I can never find these things when I need them, always when I don't. Ain't that something? Nice little audio-visual jinx right there. That one will be a keeper. I will eventually have a stackable Cerulite storage thingy with a bunch of little drawers to put all these spare parts in and maybe get some wheels for it to roll it around. Hey look, phone cable. It's still tied, it's still neat, it's still being kept. Simple enough. Not that I need phone cables very often. MicroUSB. Again, it's a cable I only can find when I don't need it. But if this still works, I can still make use of it. Just make sure the flimsy-ass connector... Nope, it doesn't have the wiggles yet. Okay, we'll keep that one. On Marriage and Family Life by St. John Chrysostom. Why the heck this is mixed in with a bunch of computer parts, I don't know. But it's a book. Therefore, not applicable to the Great Sift. File this under weird things I should have found in the bottom of my desk, but it's one of those, like, tilt the thing in order for it to... It's one of those motion picture thingies. Football, yay! It's actually Steve Young from his playing days, from a box of Crispy Wheaties and raisins, with the glue still on it from being ripped off the cereal box. Yeah, there was some kind of cereal box thing, or, hey, look, your NFL, blah, blah, blah. Steve Young, yeah, 90s. Blast from the past. What it's doing with computer parts is anybody's guess. Now for a rapid round with a stack of old CDs and manuals that are going into this meat box to be dealt with later. Old software I'll treat separately from old hardware because obviously I don't know if the electronics place recycles CDs and stuff like that. But let's just go through them one at a time here. Visible Analyst, Systems Analysis and Design. This one's left over from college. I think it still works actually, so let's save that one. This junk. Visual Basic 6. I don't know if I really need a Visual Basic development environment when Visual Basic for Applications in Microsoft Office is based off of VB6. So that one's kind of iffy. Creative, XFi, Installation CD, you can't see it but I already checked. This is the one for Windows XP. No brainer. Logitech MX500, my first attempt at a Logitech MX series gaming mouse, long gone. Nintendo Game Boy Health and Safety Precautions booklet. Save that one. The secondhand store that sells retro video games might be interested in that. Yeah, there we go. Sony Portable CD Player. Instructions. About as 90s as it gets, except it's the CD Walkman. This is that CD player I have that's that was radically overpriced in the early 2000s. The last thing I ever got ripped off from my college bookstore. I don't need a how-to thing for how to use a portable CD player. Matter of fact, it's a miracle that thing even still works. Ooh, Logitech. He's looking smarmy with his overpriced cheap chunk of plastic keyboard and mouse. Never been impressed with Logitech peripherals, especially when it comes to so-called gaming whatnot. Holmes, twin window fan. It's basically two fans with a mechanical switch. This is the $20 one. That's actually better than the $30 one. What do I need the manual for? It's a fan. Discussion over. Gigabyte motherboard drivers for what's now in the Silver Bullet, the Core 2 Duo equipment. We could download way newer copies of anything for that motherboard than what's on this CD. Trash. Check it out, the full range of Samsung products. Buy a printer. Already have a TV. Ooh, washing machine. Yeah. Nice little ad type stuff there. Dear valued customer, if you experience any technical problem with your new Samsung digital camcorder. Oh, you mean the one that I dropped in the soup and kind of lost it? It never had very good sound anyways, but yeah, there's the old, oh, that's the SSD one. Ooh, Samsung camcorder. Yeah, anyways, I'm fine with Sony Handycams, thank you very much. That's what this thing is for the Samsung SMX, etc. CanoScan Lite 50 drivers for Windows and Macintosh. Yeah, except it's Windows XP. Official support ended. Actually, it was 64-bit OS that ended. No, not 64-bit OS. Windows 10 was what killed that scanner. Anyways, Minitab. My boss still uses this. I still have the installer. Actually, this might be worth keeping. If the program still works, I'll use it. That's a video waiting to happen right there. Basically, it's a data analysis program. My boss has a way newer version on his computer that he looks at, charts from spreadsheets and stuff with. Logitech MX518. We just saw that ratty-ass excuse for a mouse earlier. We'll keep the mouse, dump the manual. Simple enough. NVIDIA Enforce 4. This is the Asus motherboard from the 2005 system's driver disk. Completely unnecessary thanks to the internet. Yeah, sleeve, right. Another good sleeve. This one's in good condition though, so we'll keep that one. Pocket Essentials, Key, Wallet, Weezer, Coldplay, Jack Johnson, Beyonce, The Strokes, Eminem, Kelly Clarkson, The Rolling Stones, Death Cab for Cutie, Black Eyed Peas, Modest. Can you tell from some of these names what this advertisement for Rhapsody is from? Or maybe you can tell how old it is just because it's Rhapsody. This came with the SanDisk Sansa E200 that I got in 06. 10-year-old Rhapsody code. Yeah, have a blast, those of you that think it actually still works. Yeah, anyways. SimCity 4 Deluxe Edition Quick Start Guide. Remember when PC games still came in boxes instead of being Steam downloads? WinFast 2000 PVR something or another from the capture card that I had that ran off a PCI. Stopped working in 64-bit OSs. Useless! Bell South. That name will take some of you back. Home office telephone, 2-line telephone, memory dialing feature. This got thrown out when I left the old place, but the manual survived. It actually had mechanical buttons for line 1 and line 2. Home office telephone. Hey, look, a free CD thing, another CD thing that's still in good shape. Save these instructions, install the batteries, Yeah, there was a battery backup for things like the voicemail if you used it. Oh, look. Oh, no, I thought that said Radio Shack. Bell South Products. It goes way back. I got this, 1994. Yeah, it goes way back, alright. I got this from Job Lot when I wanted a phone that wasn't a banana phone at my old place. Turned out to be a little too big for my desk. Anyways, Kodak Easy Share accessories for my very first digital camera. Yeah, from mid-2000s. My dad still has it still takes pictures, and it still runs off of rechargeable AA's. All these years later. It's only 5 megapixel though. There's probably smartphones that take better pictures nowadays. Anyways, he's never gonna have a smartphone, so Epson Stylus C86, the Printosaurus piece of crap. This is the manual for it. The printer's long gone. Time for the manual to join him. Windows Vista, enough said. SanDisk, Sansa E200 installation CD for a useless program to sync it with, and then there is this thing, the Getting Started package for the Kodak Easy Share for the old digital camera from 2005, with nothing left in it. Rapid run complete. Albatron Medusa GeForce 6600 GT from the 2005 system. Look, not Crossfire, an SLI port. Anyways, good old Albatron. They were a company that came out of nowhere and made really great graphics cards around the GeForce 4 era, and they went away. They went back to whatever they were making over there in China or Taiwan or wherever they are. You can tell the graphics card is old because it still has an S-video jack as well as DVI and D-sub. Theoretically, this could be usable in a system if you just plain needed graphics, even if the graphics were nothing special. Question is, can you still get drivers for this card? As the Hall & Oates guys would have said, no can do, no. Support for the GeForce GT6600 blah 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 ended with Windows 8 in February of 2015 with 309.08. No official Windows 10 support. It's not like trying to repurpose those cards would have been really good anyways, because one of them had bad bearings in the cooling fan, and I forgot which one, but I don't feel like putting those in a system just to see which one makes all the wild and crazy noise. Those two are now officially part of the junk bin. Those older Radeons that I have, like the Radeon 5 series, I probably should just run that one into the ground as well as a backup card or something. Oh look, Fractal fans with the Tuxedo style. Can you guess which computer these came out of? It's way too easy to have too many computer fans these days. Yeah, well, I'll keep them as backups in case the bearings blow out in the Venturis that'll be going into Monolith, but that's really the only intelligent use I can think of for these things. Sunon. Whiny 80mm piece of crap. And this was fan number 4 back in the Silver Bullet back in the day. The real solution was to get a better case. Better, meaning it actually had support for 120mm fans, instead of this 80mm garbage. That's a no-brainer. Junk! Oh look, it's the stock cooler from the 1090T. Custom proprietary 70mm fan, but at least it had heat pipes, and of course that heatsink compound was like concrete when I tried taking it off the darn thing when I went to put the third-party Cooler Master stuff in there. One inherent problem with stock coolers is that, as you can see, the thermal paste was pre-applied when it left the factory, which means if you use a stock cooler, you are doomed to use the spread method for heatsink compound. It would almost be better to wipe off the pre-applied stuff and just put a dab of whatever stuff you like using in the middle and doing it right. Spread method. Rubbish! This is a processor we're talking about here. We're not buttering toast. Ooh, here's one from the archives. NES Era Nintendo RF Switch. NES control deck. The interesting part about RF switches is that, yeah, they give you the worst picture and they don't even give you stereo sound in most cases. But the NES didn't have stereo sound. And it's NES, so, yeah, other than the crappy picture, there might still be just the tiniest reason to use one of these things. I'll have the lady that runs the retro video game store give me a quote on this, along with maybe some other stuff that I have no use for or something, and maybe the Game Boy manual and whatnot. I'll have to see what she has in stock nowadays, but yeah, if she can, I trade more than I buy there, so if she can come up with something compelling that makes me want to, buy something, then yeah, maybe I'll get rid of this that way. Not a computer part, but still a piece of electronics that can be retired. Philips Norelco shaver. Even when fully charged, it runs for exactly 1 second and then shuts off. Useless. I'm more of a Remington person nowadays. Simpler product, easier to clean and maintain. Why the hell is there a whammy bar mixed in with the computer parts? Save that for the guitars. Oh look, it's the door latch to Tuxedo, because I had to take off the door latch to get a 140mm fan with a funnel to fit in the back. Actually, there's probably a way that I can rig this up inside the case somewhere. Just tape it to the inside of the case, maybe on the side where there aren't any wires or something, and just store this permanently in the case. No reason for it to be loose with all the parts, as well as these grommets. Can't even remember what they are, so trash for those, not keeping them. These things are stupid. They came with the Fractal fans. They're noise reducers. I bet any money that underneath that tubing and whatnot is a single resistor wired in series with one of those pins. Yeah, it just adds some resistance to the circuit and slows down the fans that way. Word to the wise, don't use these things. If you feel the need to use these things, that's your cue that you either need a real fan controller or a case that does fan control. AKA a real fan controller. Don't use these things, they're stupid. They're a waste of perfectly good plastic and metal. Rubbish. I knew I had these sitting around somewhere. Darn it, I need these for the speakers. GeForce 5 series, the final AGP graphics card that I ever had, has analog, digital, and S-video. Sad, really. Circa 2005, barely used this thing, because shortly afterwards the Silver Bullet died, and I wound up building a system with PCI Express, went up to NVIDIA GT6600. What a ripoff. If I couldn't find decent drivers for the GeForce 6s, I imagine this GeForce 5 won't fare much better. Sadly, it's in like-new condition, but it's going into the recycling bin, exclusively because of its age. Whatever. Linksys Wireless G 2.4 GHz with Speed Booster. Ooh. From the one and only time I tried making a wireless desktop. There's USB adapters nowadays that'll do this. Never mind having to rip the thing open and use up a slot. Useless. Diamond Graphics, circa 1999. This is older than my oldest. It only has analog, and I've rated it for parts already. I think this is actually from the HP piece of junk that my dad had. Yeah, right, this goes way back. Check out passive cooling on a GPU, no cooling on its RAM. US Robotics PCI 56K modem. It was supposed to give better performance because it had a hardware chip that handled the phone signal instead of being a soft modem, relying upon software drivers to essentially have a pass-through board to the phone circuits. It was supposed to work better than soft modems of its time. It didn't. This thing kicked me off Dialup every single hour. Useless. And then again, so's Dialup. Junk. Hercules. Remember them? GeForce 3 series. GeForce 3 Ti 200, circa early 2000s. No DVI, only blue plug D-sub and S-video. My first ever graphics card upgrade, going all the way back, AGP of course, going all the way back to the HP Pavilion. This was my first attempt at a graphics card upgrade, but this is when I found out that incremental purchasing is a bad idea. I bought a GeForce 3 because it was cheap. The best card at the time was the GeForce 4. I eventually wound up with an Albitron Medusa GeForce 4, and this thing was done after less than a year. Speaking of which, here it is, the Albitron Medusa AGP GeForce 4 Ti 4800 SE, factory overclocked graphics card from the early 2000s, with analog, TV, and digital. D-sub, S-video, DVI. This was the card I finished college with. Unfortunately, these things were cheap because there was a Radeon card kicking Nvidia's ass around that time. Then they had the GeForce FX fiasco, which was a total disaster. Therefore, the old GeForce 4s got really cheap, and I got really nice frame rates in the somewhat dated games I was playing. Too bad this thing is made obsolete not only because of AGP jack, but entirely because of lack of driver support, as we found out with the 6600s earlier. Really too bad. I'll bet this card still works too. There's just nothing to run it with. What a waste. Creative Sound Blaster, circa turn of the millennium. Even has the game port still on it, but all the other analog ports are still nicely represented. You know you have an old card when the metal is rusting on the connectors. This, I believe, used to have things. I think this was the PCI 128 or something. The Creative Sound Blaster PCI 128 would sometimes be referred to, I think, as an unsonic sound blaster too. But this was actually the sound card that came with the original HP. I still have it for some strange reason, over 15 years later. Not for long. Another relic from the original HP. We just looked at the original sound card. Here's the original video card. Analog only, and a little sticker in case you were too stupid to... No. This is my very first graphics card. The NVIDIA Riva TNT 2 Pro, I believe. And does it say what it was? Yeah, it was TNT series, because it was, you know, TNT. Yeah, anyways. AC/DC could have taken a cut off of the sales of these things, but again, passive cooling on the GPU, no cooling on the 16 megabytes of graphics card VRAM, video card memory. We talking gigs nowadays, 16 megs, analog only. And this is from back in the day when Nvidia had this thing with explosives. This was the TNT, the drivers were called detonator drivers and whatnot. And I'm guessing that AC/DC fans didn't buy ATI Radeons back then, or Rage Pros, or whatever the deal was back then. Yeah, anyways. Over 15 years old, time to toss it out. Oh look, it's the other 6600. Don't know which one has the bad bearings, so... What's 6600? Crossfire, you get caught up! Wait a minute. Wrong Crossfire. Crossfire Adapter for one of those Radeons that I've never had more than one of. No brainer. The Intel Pro 100S, from back in the days when you actually still had to buy a network card when you're in a LAN environment. Nowadays, motherboards come with these things. This was a pretty nice network card back in the day, when everything was 100 megabits per second, and dinosaurs roamed the earth. Yeah, college card, basically. The Pro 100S had the best performance for keeping the connection stable when gaming over a finicky college network, so I eventually got rid of the network card the original network card that I had in the HP to get this thing for the silver bullet. Pro 100S. This thing was a household name back in the day, and now it's completely useless. Aztec Systems Limited modem, circa the turn of the millennium. The original modem in the HP. Soft modem, not as many hardware-based components as that US Robotics one I tried earlier. However, this one ran more reliably, even if dial-up was slower over this thing than the US Robotics one. At least this thing didn't lock up and disconnect me. Still useless though, as is dial-up. Assorted RAM from various laptops, most of it's Crucial and stuff like that. This one's worth holding on to, of course, because it's RAM. Hauppauge Win TV, circa early 2000s, therefore before the digital switchover, therefore useless. Also, this thing had a real-time decoder in it, so it introduced lag when you used this to play video games on a computer through a television connection. I can't believe that the less hardware-focused WinFast PVR ran better in terms of playing Nintendo 64 on a computer screen in the college dorms than this thing did. So then, I decided to spend even more money on an even bigger tuner card that had the exact same problem. Both of these are analog, therefore they won't work with today's digital signals, and they're pretty much useless nowadays. Nowadays, you don't even need to buy cards anymore. Ooh, look, composite. Ain't that something? You don't even need to buy cards anymore. Nowadays, there's USB boxes that do everything these cards used to do without having to rip open your computer. Ain't that something? Junk, junk. USB-D cable. I think I used this for the scanner from 2005. It's gone from silver to gold over the years as the plastic pieces have started to yellow. But this piece of junk is a D connector, probably, or D-shaped connector anyways. This probably still works, as opposed to those horrendous micro-USB things they have nowadays, where you breathe on it wrong and it stops working. Keep this around, just in case I have a printer or something that, well, yeah. Right, that's the end of the little boxes. Not really much to bring to the recycling place tomorrow, but we'll start the next video and start on the big box. Hopefully I can fill up the rest of this tote before calling it a night. What we'll do is we'll skip the spaghetti wiring and look at the discrete components sitting in the bottom of this thing. Fix things that way instead of having to undo wires right off the bat. But I think we have more than enough material for a very first Great Sift video, and more than enough buzz cuts to make people think I'm ripping off Robot Chicken. So let's take it easy and say goodbye to this garbage. It's going to the recycling place tomorrow morning. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by. Someday, I shall be a Sift Lord.